Saat ini, Anda sedang mendengarkan Radio Era Baru. Green Radio Line, Beyond the Limit.
Hey, now you're listening Green Radio Line with me, Livia Collins, in Bumi Kita program. So we have the exclusive interview now with Kak Kirana Agustina with the topic Global and National Actions on Plastic Pollution. She speaks as an engagement specialist in a National Plastic Action Partnership. So I really want to say thank you. It's such a honor that I could talk to persons like you, and also I'm sure that we can learn a lot of things by our interview today. Thank you so much, Kak Kirana.
Hi, Livia. Thank you so much, and thank you, Green Radio, for having me.
Yeah, but first maybe I will to ask you like how are you right then, and where are you right now? Maybe.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yep.
So currently, I'm since work from home. I'm work from my hometown in Bandung, but normally I work in Jakarta with the World Resources Institute Indonesia, and dealing with plastic issue with the National Plastic Action Partnership.
Oh, great, amazing. So our interview today will be air in Bumi Kita program that people can see throughout our YouTube channel and also our radio website at www.greenradioline.id in every Saturday. So maybe for the first time, I would like to ask to you about your introductions. Maybe you can introduce yourself to our listeners right now.
Hi everyone, my name is Kirana. I've been working for the National Plastic Action Partnership the last year, 1 year. And the National Plastic Action Partnership is actually a platform to convening the key players or the key stakeholders across the plastic value chain to reduce the plastic pollution, which basically supporting the national goals as well.
Okay, great, amazing. So maybe about your activity right now, like we know we are in the middle of the pandemic, or is that impacting to your daily activity or your work, or about the actions in the plastic pollutions itself?
Gladly it's not, but we are shifting 100% of our work and meetings through online, virtually, but it's been great. I think like everyone else, the meeting is even more packed.
Yeah.
And so it's good that we can keep the momentum because we know that the NPAP itself established to really translate the national commitment into action, and the goals or the deadline is 2025, so we don't have much time.
Yep.
So that's why, although during with or without this pandemic, we have to achieve that goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So, you are the engagement specialist of the National Plastic Action Partnerships. So, what exactly is that? Is that organizations, or what is the organization aspirations to be? To be realist.
Right. So maybe let me share a little bit about the platform itself. At the global level, it's called Global Plastic Action Partnership, which is initiated by the World Economic Forum in 2018. And then at that time, our Minister Luhut, pledged that Indonesia would like to be the first national partner to really implement this kind of model, public-private partnership, to support the national goals in reducing 70% of ocean plastic pollution in Indonesia by 2025. So in March 2019, our NPAP, as the national platform, established and convening all the key players, starting from like international government, because in NPAP itself, the main supporter for the international government are coming from the UK government and Canada government. And then, there's also a national government, such as the coordinating minister of maritime affairs and investment, which is the leading agency for this platform. And then also like the Ministry of Environment, and now we have Ministry of Planning and others. And from the private sector itself, it's coming from Dow, Chandra Asri, Coca-Cola, all the
Mm-hmm.
FMCG company as well,
Yeah.
and civil society organization. So NPAP itself is like a building the whole community, the whole ecosystem from end to end in how we can achieve the national target together. Because when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about the plastic issue, it's also all problem,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's
Yeah.
problem. So
Exactly.
we need everyone going on board. And
Okay.
then my role as an engagement specialist is to really build this community
Mm-hmm.
and to make sure we have all the key players working together for this cause. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. That's all a great work, by the way. And like I really want to ask about how long that the National Plastic Action Partnership itself is established, and also where is the organizations? Because in the local one, for example, in the Pekanbaru, I think there is no such organizations like that.
Yeah. So for the National Plastic Action Partnership, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's established in 2019.
Okay.
Uh, and for 1 year during 2019 until April 2020, we did the analytical study. Like we want to make sure the current situation of the Indonesia uh, uh, situation in terms of the plastic pollutions.
Mm-hmm.
So we work with systemic, and then we use the model coming from Pew uh, to make sure the plastic leakage to the ocean, like what is the situation in Indonesia. So for 1 year we did that. So right now NPAP is already starting to do the implementation.
Uh-huh.
We built five task force as the key change maker to really implement the multi-stakeholder action plan, and it's been great.
Mm-hmm.
We had just launched the financing roadmap
Mm-hmm.
last month, I guess. Yeah,
Okay.
to unlocking the financial gaps, because uh, based on our study, that it shows that by uh, by reducing this plastic pollution, is
Mm-hmm.
actually there's a lot of positive or co-benefits as well for the economic, for the environment, of course, and as well as the society and our health as an individual.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, what is the change or the things that are you guys already achieved in the in the organizations until now? It's also already 1 year. Maybe you can share with our listeners.
Sorry, can you repeat again, Livia?
Yeah. What is the achievement of the NPAP itself in 1 years? Maybe you can share with our listeners.
Yeah, so for after so we're having the multi-stakeholder action plan,
Mm-hmm.
and now we have five task forces. It's led by two co-chairs in each task force from the government and non-government. So there are three main impact that NPAP is trying to achieve. First, to
Mm-hmm.
convening the key player, and then and secondly to generate insight, the real insight, like
Mm-hmm.
this situation, the knowledge
Yeah.
coming from the best practices from the global level and the national level. And then the last one, the impact that we're working on it, is to matchmaking. So we have the members that have a financial capacity
Mm-hmm.
coming from, for instance, circular capital, or like some financial institution like Asian Development Bank, World Bank, and etc. And then we would like to find the most impactful solution coming from startup, or maybe like some businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and then matchmaking to have greater collaboration, and it's been in the progress.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for the task force itself, we have five task force.
Yeah.
First is financing task force, led
Mm-hmm.
by the Ministry of Finance,
Mm-hmm.
fiscal from the fiscal institution, and also Asian Development Bank. And under the financing task force, so we had like around 16 members coming from philanthropic organization,
Mm-hmm.
Canada government, Denmark, UK government, and some platform to accelerate the circular economy,
Mm-hmm.
to really basically working on how do we unlocking these financing gaps in reducing plastic pollution. pollutions. And then we have innovation task force as well.
Uh-huh.
Innovation led by the Ministry of Research and Technology, as well as Second Muse. Second Muse is actually like incubator and accelerator at the global level, and they have a lot of best practices and experience to foster the innovative solutions. And then from under the innovation task force, we already built like 24 members from Gojek,
Oh, okay.
SpaceX, yeah, and then it's really end to end. Like academics, like University of Pajajaran is there. What else? Like Ministry of Environment from Netherlands government. So it's basically members or organization that has capacity or innovative solution in reducing this plastic issue. And we also build the community for the policy task force. This is quite interesting because it's led by the coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment, as well as World Bank. So the World Bank team and the coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs are working together with NPAP to find the best policy that can be applied in Indonesia. Like we are find the best possible policies around the world, and we find which one can be applied to Indonesian. Yes.
Yep.
And the other two task force is Matrix, because maybe people already aware that there's international research from Geneva that said that Indonesia is the second largest marine debris polluters in the world.
Yeah.
After China. But there's also some studies like coming from the government itself, from the national, from the World Bank, and then from NPAP itself, like how much is actually the ocean plastic pollution leakage in our oceans. So there's a lot of different numbers, different studies. So this metric task force is led by the Indonesia Institute of Science, or LIPI, together with CSIRO. CSIRO is like a scientific body from Australian government as well. And then we are going to work together with different academicians under the metric task force. We convening like ITB, and then UNPAD, systemic as well. There's a lot of government. Umrah, like University Maritime in Rio, I guess.
Okay.
We work together to streamline or to have alignment for this baseline, so we have more clarity which number we would like to achieve and how much the 70% of reduction is starting like the baseline. So I think that's also the impact that we are currently work on after 1 year.
Okay, amazing. So, we already talked about the NPAP itself, and I really want to talk to you as an individual. Like, I read that your thesis is also talking about the plastic pollutions in the oceans in Indonesia. But I really curious, like, why you are interested in this kind of problem, like in the plastic itself. Your best story. What is that?
Okay, well, so it's my personal story, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it starts from I think we as an individual need to find our purpose, right?
Yep.
So my background study is marine science from University of Pajajaran, and during my study I have experience to see different part of Indonesia ocean, like the most beautiful part, like in Raja Ampat or some island. And then from that I realized that these marine resources is actually the main like our heritage, Indonesia identity as the largest archipelagic nation in the world. And then coming from that, I want to be part of the solution. I mean, like, to keep these marine resources not only for Indonesia but the greater benefit for around the world, I think, because what happened in Indonesia can be impacted to other part of the world.
Exactly.
For instance, in Banda Island.
Mm-hmm.
They are they're the rich. They have beautiful coral reef,
Mm-hmm.
we can say, and then coral reef is like a home for fish, right?
Yeah.
And when the coral reef being destroyed, there's no more fish, no
Mm-hmm.
more economic incentive for the fishermen, for the local fishermen, and it's actually can be impacted to bordering countries like Taiwan,
Yeah.
Philippines, Korea, and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to save our marine resources, not only
Mm-hmm.
for us, for the next generation, but for the greater world. And then and then so coming from that, I want to I mean like it's not necessarily to reduce the plastic pollution, but really to conserve our ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working for Coral Triangle Initiative. We mostly work for climate change
Mm-hmm.
and like marine protected area. And now plastic pollution become one of the greatest challenge for our oceans.
Yeah.
And then it's very complex issue, because when we talk about the plastic,
Mm-hmm.
it's not only impacted uh, like our environment,
Yeah.
but also our health, maybe
Yeah.
our next generation. So that's why I think I want to find out more about this. And coming back to the reason why I did my research or my thesis about the National Plastic Action Partnership, because I'm curious, is it
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia the main polluters
Uh-huh.
in the world, or we are the victim of this, because uh, Indonesia is archipelagic nation, so we have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of islands, like
Mm-hmm.
thousands islands. And maybe other countries, like high income countries,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have island.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're bordering, yeah, maybe their border countries is not like Indonesia, a
Yeah.
lot of islands. And then I think Indonesia itself is very unique. We are uh, our geographic landscape is really strategic in between two oceans, Hindia and Pacific Oceans.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a very unique what we call Indonesia through flow. So it's like a current where because there's what we because we are between India and Pacific Oceans.
Uh-huh.
And so these two big ocean meets, and there's a strong currents that actually bring 90% of plastic
Yeah.
coming from around the world,
Mm-hmm.
pass through the Indonesian through flow. So again, plastic has no border. So
Exactly.
I think that's why maybe Indonesia is not the main polluters or
Mm-hmm.
one of the top polluters, but maybe we could be the victim as well. Like, so it just shows that it's everyone's responsible for this plastic issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, yeah. I also realized that, yeah, it was true. Like, maybe we are not just because our like geography fact that we have a lot of islands, some things like that. So come to the topic today, like why is plastic pollution is a crucial problem for your point of view. You already mentioned that, but maybe you also can make a specific one on the impacts on the human or the impact of the planet itself as a specific one.
Yeah, so there's also research coming from a report done by the World Economic Forum that says that every year there are 8 million tons of plastic
Mm-hmm.
leakage to our oceans. And in the 2050, if our behavior remain the same,
Yeah.
there will be more plastic than fish in the sea.
Uh-huh.
So that's one thing. But then people always like we have seen a lot of pictures where turtle
Mm-hmm.
get ingested by plastic and
Mm-hmm.
died, and then it's actually ruining the our uh, our ocean, our beach.
Yeah.
And but actually the main problem is also the microplastic.
Mm-hmm.
um, because when we there's also a lot of research the impact of microplastic to to human health.
Mm-hmm.
And I did sailing as well
Yeah.
to through the Atlantic, and then with the all woman crew,
Mm-hmm.
and we would like to raising the awareness that when there's also impact of the plastic pollution. Again,
Yeah.
it's not the plastic but the
Mm-hmm.
plastic pollutions,
Mm-hmm.
the plastic pollution to our health, uh, like maybe especially for the woman, because woman
Mm-hmm.
has different biological, like we have a lot of tissues,
Yeah.
so when we get impacted by the toxic of the plastic,
Mm-hmm.
it can we can generate the toxic to our next generation
Yeah,
through, like
exactly.
when we deliver the babies or when we yeah, breastfeeding the babies.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of research more to men instead of women.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, uh, and then the main issue, I think, our consumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, maybe like for the high income countries,
Yeah.
they generate more plastic more than people in developing countries. Uh, so there's a lot of also implications of plastic to economic, and then the main material is also coming from virgin oil, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's also impact for the climate change. So that's why plastic become very very complex,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, it's everywhere. Like maybe if you see around yourself, like in our bathroom, in our everywhere,
Yeah.
we cannot live without plastic, I think.
Exactly.
In our kitchens,
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, yeah. So it's
So maybe we are moved to another question, like how is the plastic pollution is that itself the problem of plastic as a global problem? Maybe you can share the information.
oh, okay, at the global level, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a report coming from Ellen MacArthur and World Economic Forum that
Mm-hmm.
mentioned every year there's 8 million tons of plastic
Mm-hmm.
coming from our leakage to our oceans.
Yeah.
So it's huge, and by 2050, if our behavior remain the same,
Mm-hmm.
we will have more plastic than fish in our ocean, which is
Mm-hmm.
really bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then why is bad? Because uh, for the coral reef itself, so when it leakage to the oceans, it will impact also the
Yeah.
ocean health index. The water become polluted, and then when it connect with or touch the coral reef will also get weak. There's and then it's also will impact it to
Mm-hmm.
the marine biotas itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then again maybe it will back to us, as we love to eat fish as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the thing. And then I think it's also related with the population of people as well,
Mm-hmm.
because more people can
Yeah.
also generate more waste. So
Exactly.
that's why we need to be more mindful, I think, as an individuals. Yeah, but I think right now there's a lot of like a plastic issue already gain a lot of high level or political buy-in from all over the world. I
Mm-hmm.
think many countries now also focus to address this issue. So yeah, I think there's a good, and we need to keep this momentum to keep going and work on this issue. Yeah.
Yeah. So you already said that the plastic it will the the populations will impact to the plastic productions or the plastic waste. So is that the problem because of the populations or because the human activity, or this is the problem also about the waste management and the plastic itself? So what do you think about that?
Exactly. I think for the countries like Indonesia, the management, how we manage this waste is the main issue. Actually, there's the data that shows that high income countries generate more plastic waste than developing countries like us, but they have more infrastructure, they have more capacity to manage their waste compared to us, compared to developing countries, including Indonesia. So yeah, that's the things, and it's also the data coming from the NPAP. We do the study, and we divide it into four archetypes, because Indonesia is really large.
Yeah.
uh, and then we divide it into mega cities, medium city, rural, and remote. Mega is like Jakarta, medium city is like Malang or Bengkulu, and rural and remote in Indonesia. And reflect to Indonesian case, although Jakarta, we know that like a big mega city like Jakarta also has a problem for their waste, but rural and remote island has even more greater challenge because there's no infrastructure, especially for small island or remote island. They just either dump the plastic waste into the river or into the water streams, the oceans, or open landing. So it's also again will have an impact to our air pollutions and climate change as well.
Okay.
uh, yeah.
Yeah. So
So exactly,
mm-mm.
waste collect is the waste collection, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So from the things that you have been explained, like should we move from the plastic to another options, like, and if we do that, like is that will also make others problem, like for example, we changed from the plastic to a paper bag, or for the food packagings we use the paper. It will, if we're talking about the paper, it will leads to the deforestations, and also we have to cut down many trees for that. And also if we are talking about the fabric bag, it will also leads to when we have to clean it off, and it will need a lot of water, and also the detergents, and we know that the waste water, and also the warehousing waste itself, also the environment have the environment impact. So how do you see the solutions? I think it's just pop up to my like to for me to think that all we think, like all the activity or what are options is have an impact. So what do you how do you see this?
Yeah, personally, I think the thing that we have to do is to be more mindful for every action that we take, including like how we yeah, our behavior. But there's also that's also the study that we do for NPAP. We have 5 key actions, and then the main is to reduce or substitute the plastic usage to prevent consumptions. And we know that there's also a new design material coming from like bioplastic,
Yeah.
but for instance like with cassava. But if we use that too much, it will also have a impact for our food security, maybe for people who eat a lot of cassava, for instance. So exactly, it has to be more mindful, like we have to be more mindful with our consumption, I think. That's the thing. But also for NPAP itself, we have 5 key actions, like how we reduce the plastic consumption by maybe having a reuse model, for
Yeah.
instance. There are some companies or some startup that using reuse model, like we bring our containers, or yeah, there's already happens in different parts of Indonesia. It's even in Bali, like we can go to cafe, and then they have a reuse model.
Yeah.
But we can as a personal also do that. We bring our reuse
Yeah.
use essential products. And also how we substitute, so for NPAP, we some of our key, our key action that we also championing to 5 task force to this is really to redesign plastic products and packaging. So we that's why we convening different key players in this plastic production as well. And then there's actually some ongoing research. And yeah, I think that's to reflect to your questions on that. Hopefully it's answered.
Yes, exactly. So it already answers my questions, by the way. So come to the main topic, like how is the global actions to preventing and also stop the wave of the plastic pollution and its approach on solving this problem? And is that by changing the perspective of the people, like you have already mentioned, or a policy making, like what is the solutions that are made in the global actions?
Right. I think it's not only policy change, but it has to be in parallel. Like
Mm-hmm.
first, how we drive policy creations, like how we make sure that policy is also can be applied well with Indonesia environment. For instance, in at the global level, there are like EPR, like extended producer responsibility, where producers has to be responsible for their plastic production or
Mm-hmm.
their products. But maybe it's not really yet fully implemented in Indonesia because we may not having a good enabling condition to do that policy. So, but we are work on that. That's why it's important to have different voices
Mm-hmm.
within NPAP as well to make sure we can have a reality check in,
Yeah.
like how this actually can be a work this policy. So first is really drive policy creation, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and then how we can unlocking financing as well,
Yeah.
because because for instance to build infrastructure for waste management require a lot of investment,
Yeah.
require a lot of funding, and if we want to also build infrastructure for recycle, it's also require funds.
Yeah.
So NPAP also do the first costed analysis. So
Mm-hmm.
we share, I mean, like we recommend this 5 key action, and then we also inform that how much investment we need. And within the task force, for the financing task force, the role is to really unlocking financing gaps. Well, from where? From either like conventional streams or from the global level, how we can unlocking these financing gaps to implement this action plan. And then of course to support innovations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have a innovation task force to foster these innovative solutions. But again, we realize that innovation also cannot work alone. It will be impacted the financing again, and
Yeah.
then the policy creation. So we these different this different task forces also collaborate, like working together. Like we would like to promote this innovative solution, but there's also implication for the financing and then in policy
Yeah.
to make this work. And then of course changing behaviors, but to change behavior requires a lot of times. For instance, there are some study like a work with Nestle and Systemic in Jemberana, I guess, or near Bali, in near Banyuwangi as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires maybe 2 or 10 years to change people's behavior. So
Yeah.
it requires a lot of times. Um, yeah, but we need that. But when we talk about changing behavior,
Uh-huh.
it's not only changing our behavior, but changing business behavior, businesses people. It has to be changing the behavior of the government itself.
Yeah.
So it has to be all for the changing behavior also. And then how we also harmonizing the baseline, like how we can have come up with agree baseline, agree like how much is actually leakage of Indonesian. So
Mm-hmm.
that's also important. And also the last one, but
Yeah.
also it's also important how we make sure like a marginal community, like women, like a waste speaker, also being heard. And we put in our plan, because the study that also shows in Indonesia, our waste collection is really low. We need to increase our collection rate,
Mm-hmm.
and informal sector such as waste picker is actually has a important role in this, because they support the waste collections.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we need to also promote them, like how to make them more respect respectable as well. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So, you have been work by the making the strategy or to make it realize on our national level. So, what is the things that become the challengings, like the obstacle that you found out to while trying to solve the plastic problem itself in a national level?
Interesting. I think the challenge is to make everyone working together and
Uh-huh.
faster because the time is ticking.
Yeah.
uh, NPAP itself, the main goals is to support the national goals. So
Mm-hmm.
the success of the national goals is the success of NPAP as a platform, and we convening different like all the people coming from stakeholders, like people who produce the plastic, people who championing the plastic, everyone. So that's also the challenge, but it's also very interesting. And then Indonesia is actually the first national partner of
Oh.
GPAP, of
Uh-huh.
Global Plastic Action Partnership. So the rest of the world is actually looking up to Indonesia, how we as a largest countries, like largest archipelagic nation with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of complex and a big population, can solve this issue. And if Indonesia success, is also our success as well. Yeah, I think that's
Uh-huh. Okay. So, what is the listeners can contribute to taking actions on the plastic pollutions? What we can do right now.
I think there's I mean, everyone
Yeah.
has a role to play.
Yeah.
As an individual, we can be more mindful of our consumption, of our behavior. As a professional level, in wherever you work, like Livia work as an announcer in Green Radio to
Mm-hmm.
give people uh, to influence the good things. I think it's also your role, and people maybe who work at the government level can support to change the policy. So everyone can have a role as an individual, as a professional. Like doctor maybe can do more research on the impact of plastic to our health,
Yeah.
or the teacher can also teach the student to be more aware for the environment, for the plastic.
Yeah.
And we are, as a citizen, we need to make sure we support or elect the government who also concerned with the environment, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, good. So, we already talk about the issues in a global level in an English, and then sudah saatnya sepertinya kita juga berbicara dengan bahasa nasional kita nih. Terlebih kita punya kesempatan berbicara dan berbincang dengan narasumber yang fokus terhadap isu plastik di nasional level. Dan bagaimana nih Kak, kalau misalnya kita berbicara tentang isu dalam negeri sendiri terkait plastik dan pencemarannya di ocean, dan secara spesifiknya bagaimana sampah plastik yang saat ini ada. Mhm.
Ya, jadi kalau misalnya di Indonesia, sebenarnya kalau kalau data yang maksudnya studi yang sudah kita lakukan tuh ternyata ada 6,8 juta ton plastik, dan leakage ya, dan 4,8 tidak terkelola dengan baik gitu.
Wow, itu lebih
Eh,
dari setengahnya ya Kak ya.
Nah, iya, 4,8 tidak terkelola dengan baik. Dan sejauh ini yang Indonesia lakukan adalah yang paling banyak itu open burning, dibakar. Pasti langsung tahu kan,
Bener.
pasti banyak di mana-mana. Kalau nggak dibakar langsung dibuang gitu aja, mau ke sungai, kemanapun.
Mm-mm.
Atau ya itu jadi main isunya open dumping sama open burningnya itu.
Yeah.
Dan ternyata kalau misalnya dari apa jadi 70, dan kalau dilihat tadi yang sebenarnya udah disampaikan juga, kalau misalnya Indonesia dilihat dari mega city, medium, rural sama remote, ternyata 72% bahkan adanya di rural sama remote, karena itu yang tidak ter-reach sama pemerintah nasional mungkin
Yeah.
ya. Ada karena yang jauh lah, di pulau-pulau terkecil segala macam. Itu jadinya perubahan juga bisa dimulai dari situ, dan bisa dimulai dari tingkat terkecil sebenarnya di desa.
Yeah.
Jadi di nasional level sebenarnya kalau misalnya dinas secara nasional kan bisa merekomendasikan sebenarnya situasinya seperti ini. Tapi yang benar-benar bisa merubah itu sebenarnya pemerintah daerah kan. Jadi
Benar.
pentingnya pemerintah daerah menyadari juga bahwa apa aja sih yang harusnya mereka lakukan gitu, dari mana gitu. Dari itu juga sebenarnya perlu terus support juga dari kita semua sih sebenarnya, dan dari level individu juga ya untuk itu. Tapi kurang lebih seperti itu sih. Dan bahkan kalau data dari NPAP sendiri ternyata pemulung itu punya peran penting banget untuk bantu sampah, pengolekan sampah gitu. Dan tapi kita udah mulai banyak bekerja sih untuk mendukung pemulung gitu.
Iya, kadang juga mikir itu memang kewajiban pemerintah nasional ya untuk memberikan infrastruktur kepada segala lini regional yang ada gitu di Indonesia. Tapi penting juga nih gimana ya, concern dari apa ya, pemerintah daerah begitu, kayak wali kota dan juga gubernurnya terhadap isu lingkungan. Terlebih kayak misalnya gini kan Kak, kalau ngasih informasi ya, Menteri Lingkungan itu nge-ban tidak boleh membuang sampah atau menumpuk sampah di tempat-tempat. Tetapi permasalahan yang ditemui adalah TPA-nya nggak ketemu gitu loh. Jadi kita mau buang sampah di mana supaya tidak terkena denda di saat TPA itu sangat jauh dan kita nggak tahu itu di mana. Jadi ya masih
Iya, benar-benar. Dan itu kebanyakan dari pemerintah daerah, dimulai dari desa juga kesulitan untuk mencari
benar.
lahan untuk TPA sendiri gitu. Dan itu sebenarnya yang perlu dibantu sih, technical assistance-nya seperti itu.
Oke.
Benar. Dan sebenarnya dengan kita mengelola sampah gitu, sebenarnya banyak banget positif outcomes buat Indonesia. Apalagi kalau misalnya kita berarahnya, kalau misalnya sekarang sih lagi term yang lagi sering dipakai circular economy ya, gimana itu sampah bisa terus dimanfaatkan hingga masa hidupnya gitu ya. Jadi bahkan dengan kita sampai tahun 2025 nih, kalau misalnya multi stakeholder action plan itu terjalankan, atau misalnya kita benar-benar bisa mengelola sampah atau bisa ter-achieve nih di tahun 2025 70% pengurangan sampah plastik di laut. Bahkan nggak hanya kita bisa mengurangi 16 juta ton plastik di laut, bahkan bisa juga data tuh bilang bisa mengenerate pekerjaan-pekerjaan baru, livelihood yang malah justru mendukung pengurangan sampah, kayak misalnya di bank sampah atau startup yang juga bisa support dalam recycling lah, redesign materialnya lah, atau collectionnya. Itu sekarang kan udah mulai banyak ya, itu bahkan bisa generate bahkan 150.000 lebih new jobs gitu. Terus udah gitu tentu aja akhirnya kalau misalnya kita lebih sadar, malah bisa membantu mengurangi gas emisi. Gas emisinya karena kan itu balik lagi kan, plastic production juga dibuatnya dari virgin material, dari crude oil gitu kan. Jadinya dengan kita lebih mindful, ada redesign dan lain sebagainya, juga itu malah bisa membantu pengurangan gas emisi dan juga better health for kita, buat kita semua. Buat gitu sih yang.
Iya. Nah Kak, seperti yang sudah kita ketahui nih, yang Kakak juga sebutkan tadi, ada penelitian yang mengatakan Indonesia adalah penghasil sampah plastik ke laut yang terbesar kedua itu setelah Cina. Nah kalau melihat di atas yang sudah disebutkan tadi, relasi antara banyaknya sampah atau limbah plastik yang dihasilkan dengan suatu negara itu, total penduduknya itu berarti bisa dikatakan ada relasinya ya Kak, begitu? Kayak Cina kan penduduknya banyak, Indonesia juga banyak, makanya produksi sampahnya banyak. Apa itu menjadi case kenapa kita menjadi negara penghasil sampah plastik terbesar? Kalau dari pandangan Kakak sendiri gimana?
Iya, benar banget. Karena pertama high income country nih, balik lagi nih, negara-negara yang memiliki kapasitas ekonomi lebih besar, ya tentu aja mereka punya kapasitas untuk lebih konsumtif kan. Generate sampahnya sebenarnya lebih banyak, tapi pertama mungkin mereka jumlah populasinya nggak sebanyak negara-negara kayak Indonesia, Cina, India gitu, atau dan mereka juga punya infrastruktur yang lebih memadai gitu.
Benar.
Sedangkan kita misalnya kalau lihat di Indonesia sebenarnya wilayahnya tuh luas banget. Ini sebenarnya masuk waktu penelitian S2 aku juga sih. Jadi kalau kita kita overlay peta Indonesia itu tuh luasnya sama kalau misalnya dari kalau misalnya di Amerika tuh sebesar benua Amerika gitu. Terus kalau misalnya di Eropa itu kalau nggak salah dari Ireland ke Rusia. Jadi Indonesia tuh super besar gitu.
Benar.
Jadi itu tuh benar-benar PR besar kita pemerintah semuanya untuk mengelola Indonesia karena it's very unique gitu. Dan kita jumlah populasinya juga keempat ya kalau nggak salah
terbesar.
Iya, dan itu jadinya tentu aja jadi salah satu faktor. Dan balik lagi dengan luasnya Indonesia, banyak negara kepulauan, masih banyak gap pendidikan. Jadi di setiap daerah, maksudnya mungkin di kota besar aja nggak semuanya aware untuk menjaga lingkungan kan. Apalagi mungkin di remote, di rural area gitu. Buat pemerintah daerahnya atau apapun itu jadinya ada kesenjangan yang emang jadinya PR bersama sih gitu.
Iya. Nah, kalau misalnya kita ngelihat kesadaran masyarakat nih Kak secara nasional tentang isu plastik, kalau menurut Kakak gimana sih kesadaran masyarakat secara nasional? Mungkin Kakak udah sebutin, tapi gimana tuh spesifiknya?
Kalau yang aku lihat sih sekarang hampir semua udah mulai sadar ya. Kayak udah banyak banget gerakan-gerakan untuk zero waste. Terus kita udah mulai gerakan kayak misalnya pilah sampah gitu, composting. Walaupun kadang mungkin aku bias karena lingkungan sekitar pekerjaan dan teman-teman yang juga udah aware ke arah lingkungan gitu. Tapi mungkin kalau misalnya lihat orang tua kita atau misalnya teman-teman yang di luar bidang lingkungan sebenarnya masih sama aja sebenarnya ya. Tapi sebenarnya kalau aku lihat sih gerakannya udah banyak.
Benar.
Udah meningkat banget, bank sampah makin banyak gitu.
Ya. Nah, bagaimana sih Kak Indonesia sendiri bisa melawan pencemaran plastik dan langkah apa nih yang sudah dilakukan sejauh ini menurut Kakak dari pemerintah dan juga stakeholder kita?
Pemerintah udah secara nasional menurutku udah sangat melakukan bold action ya. Pertama dengan punya rencana aksi nasional, pemerintah juga punya rencana aksi nasional untuk pengurangan sampah plastik. Pemerintah sampai bikin keputusan presiden juga gitu. Jadi komitmennya itu sampai level presiden, gimana Indonesia harus benar-benar mengachieve target pengurangan sampah plastik ini baik di laut atau pengelolaan di darat gitu. Jadi pemerintah nasional udah melakukan, menurut aku udah melakukan bold action dengan punya komitmen 70% pengurangan aja itu udah ambisi yang
Besar ya.
The goals yang cukup ambisius juga kan. Cuman ya itu kembali lagi mungkin, tapi kalau misalnya di level daerah juga kita udah lihat banyak pemerintah daerah misalnya kayak di Banjarmasin, mereka udah melakukan ban single use plastik. Sebenarnya di Bali juga waktu itu sempat pas di Bali atau di jadi kalau yang aku dengar ya ngobrol dari sama pemerintah daerah misalnya di Banjarmasin, kenapa akhirnya mereka mau mengurangi sampah plastik. Jadi di tahun 2010 kalau nggak salah sempat Banjarmasin dibilang salah satu kota di Indonesia yang paling kotor karena kan dekat langsung ke sungai kan, mungkin langsung buang sampah ke sungai segala macam. Nah waktu itu pemerintah daerahnya melihat bahwa dalam 5 tahun ke depan TPA tempat pembuangan akhir di Banjarmasin udah nggak bisa memenuhi atau mengelola sampah-sampah daerah di sana. Dan pas yang mereka lihat yang paling banyak ditemukan waktu itu single use plastiknya, plastik bagnya. Jadi mereka mulai dari situ sebenarnya. Tapi akhirnya caranya mereka mulai dari retail gitu, kayak ban di retail gitu. Terus dari situ mereka malah melihat ada namanya purun. Purun tuh kayak tanaman yang khas di
Iya.
Banjarmasin,
Heeh.
yang zaman dulu dibikin kayak buat tas-tasnya gitu.
Tas
Nah
anyaman
sekarang
gitu
malah
ya.
tas anyamannya,
Heeh.
bahkan sekarang tas bakul purunnya tuh bisa sampai diekspor ke luar
Wah.
negeri segala macam. Dan itu justru dijadikan buat perempuan-perempuan,
Mhm.
ibu-ibu di sana,
Iya.
buat kayak iya, itu di situ malah jadi positifnya gitu. Dan
Heeh.
bahkan dari pemerintah nasional juga
Heeh.
di Kementerian Keuangan jadi ngasih insentif. Dan kayak misalnya Banjarmasin sekarang jadi kayak kota dapat banyak banyak award gitu,
Mhm. Mhm.
hal-hal kayak gitu. Dan itu banyak sih, kayak di Bogor juga sebenarnya, di Bali.
Iya.
Jadi pemerintah daerah, tapi kita memang perlu contoh gitu. Di Indonesia leadership sama contoh itu penting sih. Jadi
Iya.
nggak, dengan adanya contoh jadi bisa, oh ya kota lain juga bisa. Dan jadi emang penting untuk terus di championing. Oh ini kota-kota ini juga udah bisa gitu.
Bener-bener. Nah, jadi
Gitu.
kayak yang di Banjarmasin contohnya tadi ya Kak, mungkin itu tradisi lama ya, kita menganyam dan menjadikan tas. Tapi karena ada kemudahan mendapatkan plastik, jadi plastik single use itu sering banget digunain. Dan itu juga bisa membuat perekonomian naik juga ya, karena juga memberikan pekerjaan kepada banyak orang di situ. Nah, mungkin terakhir nih Kak, closing statement dari Kakak dan juga harapan nih serta pesannya kepada pendengar kita saat ini.
Closing statement ya. Jadi ya sebenarnya itu sih, everyone has role to play gitu. Jadi mau kita dari level individu, level profesional di mana kita sebagai bekerja, juga sebagai warga negara Indonesia, kita semua punya peran. Dan nggak ada one silver bullet solution gitu loh. Jadi we have to work together gitu. Itu
Oke.
kayaknya closing statement-nya.
Oke, makasih
Dan
banyak.
harapannya mudah-mudahan Indonesia bisa mencapai target pengurangannya dan benar-benar bisa jadi contoh ya untuk circular economy dan menjaga lingkungan laut, dan khususnya laut bisa bersih untuk generasi kita di masa yang akan datang.
Amin, semangat. Terima kasih banyak Kak Kirana untuk waktunya dan juga pesan-pesan yang luar biasa. Tetap semangat untuk berjuang demi ocean kita yang bersih, laut kita yang bersih, dan juga sampah plastik nih bye-bye begitu. Terima kasih banyak Kak Kiran.
Olivia, thank you Green Radio.
Saat ini, Anda sedang mendengarkan Radio Era Baru. Green Radio Line, Beyond the Limit.